Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Don Neuen. Let me be the first to welcome you all to this absolutely riveting episode of Cowboy Logic Radio. Boy, yeah, we got a big show for you. Did that
Somehow I knew you were going to say
like
that.
Bill Clinton when I did that? Boy.
Yeah, we got a big show.
No, you don't sound like Clinton, though.
No, that's because I'm not a guy.
Okay, well, that's a pretty good reason. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this absolutely riveting post-Thanksgiving, pre-Christmas episode of Cowboy Logic Radio. Guess what is tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen? I know you're all wondering, and you're asking, and you're waiting with bated breath for me to tell you.
No.
Tomorrow, December 5th, is Donna Fiducia's birthday, ladies and gentlemen. Donna's big birthday. It was the day many years ago that she popped out of the womb, naked as a little jaybird, got smacked on the butt, and started crying.
Do they still do that? They still smack babies on the butt when you come out to get you started breathing?
Don't know. My kids are grown.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do. You know what else tomorrow
Now they
is?
just come out of the womb and they'll show a kid a picture of Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, and the kid goes, and everything's fine. Everybody knows the kid can breathe.
That's so bad.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is.
It might be fake news, but it's not bad.
But fake news is
Hey,
really
what was
real
that
news.
was crawling across the floor here?
It looks like a little spider. That's okay. They don't eat much. Step on his ass. There you go. We have crickets.
We live out in the country. We have everything running.
We have these crickets. They call them camelback crickets or humpback crickets or something. These big, humpy back looking crickets that come around this time of year. And
Is something flying around in here now?
No, not yet. I'm sure there will.
We're coming to you live from the Cowboy Logic Zoo.
That's true.
Where we have all types of creatures and critters. Now, that's because Cowboy Logic Radio comes for you from God's country, by gosh.
It's true. We are in the middle of
We're out in the middle of the
nowhere.
country.
Yep.
We have coyotes. We have deer.
And since
we have antelope.
Well, we don't have those kind of coyotes. We have the coyotes that
we
are
have muskrats.
But not the coyotes that basically smuggle humans across the board.
No, we don't have those kind. We have the little gray furry ones.
Yes, we have the coyotes that the dogs howl at every night. And
That's the way it is out in the country.
You know what else we've had the last couple of days?
What,
Because
Donna?
all of a sudden it was 75 degrees out.
We had deer.
The beers, listen to me. The bees are back.
Oh, really?
Yes, I tried to load one of the horses into a horse trailer, and a big, humongous red wasp came out of nowhere.
That's a wasp.
Yeah, but it's
and
a
I know
stinging-
because I've been stung by them many times.
And apparently they come back to life when you get this warmth.
Well, of course they do.
So I would have had the horse in the trailer getting his butt stung right and left. That would have been cute. But I hit him with a
Do you remember that
wasp and
summer
hornet
when I
spray.
got stung like 4 times?
I don't know what it is about you. Maybe it's the coconut oil, because when you take a shower, you like rub yourself down.
Queen of Helene. I don't rub myself down with it. I put it on my face and I put it on my neck and I run it through my hair.
Well, it must attract bees and wasps.
Because I did get stung by a red wasp in the neck twice.
Like, yeah, these nasty looking red wasps.
Then I had one
go to
fly
you.
up my T-shirt one time, stung me on the stomach. That felt great.
And then when you ran over a yellow jacket nest in the ground with the tractor and had a huge tree in front of you or
had
a stump.
Swarm of jackets attacking
You ran
me
over
in
the stump and bent the heck out of the front bucket of the tractor.
Well, yeah,
you
I
know
did
how
that.
fast you have to go to bend that metal?
Donna, let me challenge you to something. You sit in the cab of a tractor that does not have an enclosure like our good friend and neighbor, David Huddleston.
Yes, he's got a big money Mahindra tractor.
Yeah, but we don't. Okay, so I'm not protected. And you dig a yellow jacket nest out of the side of a hill.
Well, you were trying to dig out a
I wasn't
stump,
trying to dig anything. I was carrying a big tree that had fallen.
Oh, that's
about
right.
20 feet long.
Yep.
Had it perched and balanced perfectly on the bucket, and I was taking it down into
to dump it in the woods.
The ravine, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I had to reposition the tractor and everything while this big tree's teetering on the end of it. And when I did that, I had to back up the hill where I had a bush hog on the back of the tractor. Yep. What happened? That bush hog dug into the hill, which is normally not a problem unless the point of impact is a massive yellow jacket nest. And they were all over me.
All I know is you come back and the bucket of the tractor has this huge dent in it. And we're talking about thick steel. And you're going, because all I had to do was I just gunned it to get away, and I ran over whatever was in front of me.
Yeah, that's how that goes out in the country, by gosh. Hey, we've got some phenomenal news outside of the fact that tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, when you are listening to this show, tomorrow morning, Donna Fiducia's birthday begins. I encourage every one of you to go to her Facebook page and tell her absolutely how much you love her.
But I'm Jack Benny. I count backwards
but
now.
You know what,
I don't
baby?
like birthdays.
I've never looked so forward to a birthday as I do yours.
Well, I appreciate it. And, of course, it is a reason to go spend money at Dover's Saddlery
Which
and buy all
exactly what we did this past weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Many of you may have seen the post on Facebook from me absolutely being nervous. I was very nervous when we were at Dover's Saddlery. How did they say it on Siri?
It's Saddlery.
Yeah, but how did she say it on Siri?
Saddlery.
Saddlery. We're going to the Saddlery.
Dover Saddlery.
I was very saddlery when I was watching the things be rung up there at the counter there, Donna.
Dover Saddlery is 1/4 mile up on the right-hand side.
That's right. Hey, hold on. We've got some very exciting news,
We do have exciting news.
Do you want to talk about this?
No, you talk. You start.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, effective yesterday at, I believe, 5 p.m. sharp.
5 p.m. sharp?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing?
Cowboy Logic Radio is now a member of the iHeartRadio family, thanks to the great people that work with us at Mojo 50 Radio.
Yes.
You can find Cowboy Logic Radio now on iHeartRadio.
How cool
For all
is
of
that?
you people that have that app, if you don't have it, all you got to do is download the iHeartRadio app, and then you do a search for Mojo 50. Now, for those of you that have had your head in the sand for the past 6 or 8 months or year or however long it's been, Mojo 50 is a new network that carries Cowboy Logic Radio.
Right.
And a big hat tip to Ron Phillips and all of the guys and gals over there at Mojo 50. It's a phenomenal network.
They're doing such great work to get this network off the ground, too. A lot of hard work.
And you know what Ron Phillips told me?
What did he tell
I mean, this is a secret. I'm going to share it. Just
what did he tell you?
Keep it to yourself, okay? Mm-hmm. When he was putting Mojo 50 together with Doc Thompson and all the guys and gals over there at Mojo 50, when he was putting this together, he called me up and he said, Don, it's Ron. Well, that's the first thing he said.
No, he doesn't. He knows you have his number.
That particular day when he made the call, he goes, Don,
okay.
It's Ron.
Okay.
Well, I instantly knew who it was. Mm-hmm. And I said, what's up, Ron? It's Don.
And then what did he say?
He said, got a new project. So excited about it. It's called Mojo 50, but we're not going to do it at all. We're going to scrap the idea. We're going to throw it in the trash can and hit delete unless you, Don Neuen, will be part of this.
I don't believe that at all.
And you know what I said?
You said, no way, Jose.
No, that's not. His name's Ron, not Jose.
So you said, no way, Ron A.
No, I said, Ron, I can't tell you how flattered I am.
You're so full of crap. You know that? You really are so full of crap.
Yeah, but you know what? I sound great.
You are so
on the
full
radio.
of crap, your eyes are brown.
My eyes are hazel. Thank you very much, Donna.
So they haven't quite.
Hey, but I got to talk a little bit more about
Festered
Mojo
yet.
50 because this is very exciting
No, it
stuff.
really is. Cool.
All right. So you download the iHeartRadio app, you search for Mojo 50, you save it as a favorite, you do thumbs up and whatever you got to do to make us look good, and that's what you got. That's all you got to do. And then you just push play and it happens. Okay?
There's apps all over
And
the place.
I think that by the end of tonight, you can search for Cowboy Logic Radio and it might come up too.
Cool.
Like the episode. Now, also, with this Mojo 50 family, Donna, the Mojo 50 50 states in 50 days bus tour is coming up, and it's starting May 27th, 2019.
Very cool.
And I know all about this stuff because
That's
I'm a
because
bus
you are
guy
providing
expert.
the bus.
Yeah, but you know what?
What?
Ron Phillips and Doc Thompson and Matt Locke and all these other people from the Mojo 50 clan, they're going to get in this bus, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to go all over the country. They're going to go all over the United States. They're going to hit every state in the lower 48.
Really?
And then and then when we're up in the Seattle, Washington area, I'm making us.
Yeah, that
I'm
would
doing
be a
that
big
with my
circle
finger.
with your finger.
Yeah. They're going to fly to Alaska, Donna. They're going to fly to Alaska from Washington State.
Really?
Yep.
No
and then they're
kidding.
going to fly back down to Washington State while that bus patiently waits for them.
And then go to the rest of the 50
Then they're going to
states they didn't
continue
go
down
to?
the left coast.
Very cool.
And after they finish with Los Angeles, guess what they're going to do?
What?
Fly to Hawaii, Donna.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now,
Wow.
I don't think for 1 minute that they didn't think about this a little bit before, in which they have Hawaii as the last stop on the tour.
Yeah, really.
And
It would
why
take
do
a
I
nice,
think it might be like an elongated,
big old vacation.
an extended stop? Because see, once they
While
get
the
off the
bus
bus in
waits
Los
for 'em.
Angeles, they go bye bus.
Oh, the bus
and they
goes
send
back
the bus back.
to
Indio.
Eduardo?
We're going to use one of the West Coast buses.
Oh, okay, cool.
Indio.
That
And
would
I
be-
think I'm going to put Isaac Horek on that tour.
Isaac is such a cool driver. He's the best driver. He
Yeah.
really is. That guy can actually thread a needle with a 45-foot Prevost bus.
And a trailer.
And a
in the
trailer.
dark and in the rain.
He's an
with
amazing
black
driver.
ice on both sides.
Yes.
Beware. Hey, black ice matters.
This time of year, I would venture to say if you're a bus driver, black ice seriously matters.
So anyway, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I need for you to go to mojo50.com. And for any liberals that are listening, you spell that the following. M as in Michael, O as in Oscar, J as in Juno or Jupiter or Jolly or St. Nick, O as
Saint
in
Nick?
Oscar, Jolly St. Nick.
Oh, okay.
All right, so MOJO 5, the number 5, it looks like a backwards S, O.
Right.
.com. Mojo50.com. Check it out. You got all kinds of cool stuff about this 50 states in 50 days tour. We're very excited to be a part of it. We're honored to be a part of it. iHeartRadio, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get any better than that. Back to you, Donna Fiducia,
we don't get
who's
to-
having a birthday tomorrow.
But we don't get to go to Hawaii, do we?
No, we weren't even asked to go on the tour.
I'll pass up on Alaska. I really don't want to go up there. It's too cold. But I'd
Well,
love
at that
to go
time
to
of year,
Hawaii.
I think they're going to be bitten by big,
humongous mosquitoes.
Big ass Alaskan mosquitoes. These things are
Actually,
the size
I hear it
of
is
Chuck
just
Schumer's
the
tears.
the most beautiful state. But you got to go there in the summertime, that's for sure. Hey, you know what is going to happen tomorrow? Or on a more serious note, though. I mean, I know it's
Your
my
birthday.
No,
December 5.
I don't want to count my birthday.
December 5th, Donna.
Former President George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, will be buried tomorrow as well. He's
And you
laying
don't
in
think he
state
planned
right
it that way around your birthday?
No, I don't think he did.
Come on, Donna.
But he's going to lay in state, and he is right now actually at the Capitol Rotunda, and rightly so. And President Trump and First Lady Melania paid their their respects as he lay in state. He actually Trump flew Air Force One out to pick up the body of Bush 41 I think they renamed Air Force One, something like 41 something or other. I mean, they named it after Bush, but it was Air Force One. And they took a lot of the seats out to accommodate the hearse. And they flew the body back on Monday. And they obviously flew it back to D.C., I should say. So Bush 41 made his last visit to Washington, D.C., as he lays in state in the Capitol Rotunda. And again, First Lady and President Trump paid their respects yesterday. The stock market, believe it or not, is going to be closed tomorrow for the funeral. I've never traded stocks that long, but I was thinking to myself, God, that seems weird. But we looked it up, and sure enough, the stock market was closed for the funeral of Gerald Ford as well. So apparently with former presidents, that is the norm. So Wednesday, the stock market's going to be closed.
Well, say what you will about Bush 41.
He had class.
He did, and I'll tell you what had more class than anything that has to do with him being the president or the head of the CIA or any of this other stuff is the marriage that he had.
Absolutely.
You know, that, whether you were on the left side of the aisle or the right side of the aisle, whether you liked what this man did when he was president, the bottom line is he and Barbara Bush had a heck of a marriage. And
think about the life
that in itself should be a role model for many people.
Exactly. Think about the life he had, though. I mean, he enlisted at the age of 18. When he was shot down, he lived in a inflatable for 4 days before he was picked up by a submarine in World War II. I mean, this is the greatest generation. This is a guy at age 18 that had that experience.
This
overseas.
is a guy that at age 116 jumped out of an airplane, Donna.
No, I think
that in itself is
90
pretty damn
or 91.
impressive.
But the point is, think about what millennials are doing today at age 18. They're have to
running
have their
away from
soft,
chalk.
They have to have their safe spaces. And if it says Trump
They
written
need
in chalk
cuddle
on
puppies.
God.
Stuffed animals.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of puppies.
Safe spaces.
Let me ask you
Cry
this.
closets and
Really?
little couches to sit on.
Actually, Bush 41 did have a service dog. And
Yeah.
it was a yellow
Yeah.
lab.
Looked like our dog Tucker.
His name was Sully. I don't know whether he was named after Sully, the pilot that successfully landed that plane that was having mechanical problems in the Hudson River or not, but the dog's name was Sully. And you know what? That dog, I actually started tearing up. They showed a picture of the casket and the dog laying on the ground in front of the casket. But you know what, honey? That dog is going to be given to another service member that has PTSD or something similar that needs a service dog. Can you imagine the honor that must be?
I can't.
I really can't. That really is just, that is what makes you swell up, because he did live.
Swell up or well up?
Well up, sorry.
You know, if
swell
you
up
listen,
when I drink too much water.
If you swell up, you could swell up so big that it could actually make you well up.
I'm sorry it's late. I'm tired at this point. I cleaned 8 stalls today and
Which
rode
is,
4 horses.
ladies and gentlemen, which is unbelievable because we only have 7 stalls in our barn.
I cleaned 8 horses.
How did you do that,
I cleaned
mathematician
6
Donna?
stalls and I cleaned 8 horses. All right.
Hey, what do you want to talk about?
Alan Dershowitz, former Harvard law professor, of course, says it's possible that Robert Mueller wants as many people as possible to commit perjury with his investigation so that later he can put pressure on those people to apparently go into some sort of perjury trap. The main thing is Dershowitz is saying with this special investigation, because there is nothing, he basically is trying to justify his existence. This guy Mueller needs to be bankrupted for legal fees himself to see how it's like what he's done to other people. This is ridiculous. Did anybody really even know who Jerome Corsi was a couple years ago in 2016?
Well, we did.
Of course. Well, we did. But most people,
Hold on.
I mean, come on, this is just ridiculous.
Let me say something about this, Donna. You're reading this like it's some new revelation that's come out today. Okay?
It's just
Here's
so
the bottom
obvious
line.
now. It's Captain
We've been
Obvious
saying
now.
this for months
I
and
know,
months
but the
and
mainstream media doesn't say it. And you know what it's doing now, which is really scary? This is another thing they were talking about on Fox, which I totally agree with. Trump spoke briefly with Putin at the G20 meeting. Now, on the way over there, he was supposed to have a full-fledged meeting with Putin. Then he said, well, I'm not going to meet with Putin. Well, the thing is...
What did I just do, Donna?
You Putin. Can I be serious here for 1 second?
I let you be serious when we were talking about Bush 41.
What's happening is...
What was that, Donna?
It's another Putin. It was an informal conversation that Trump had with Putin. But no, this is serious, honey, because what's happening is this phony Russian collusion BS that the left is fomenting is making it next to impossible for our president to deal with the other superpower of the world, and that is Russia. And the Trump with Russian allegation, he doesn't feel free to talk to and deal with Putin.
And what, in your opinion, is the greatest threat to the national security of the United States of America?
An EMP.
The Democrat Party.
Well, besides that. But an EMP.
I'm parlaying on what you were saying.
I know, but the problem is this is endangering our security.
I just said that. That's right. Exactly what I'm talking about.
The Democrat Party is endangering our security. This is really unbelievable. And the thing is, when is the media going to actually be some sort of vestige of information
They're done.
Actually say this?
They are done.
It's really
They
scary.
are extinct. They are like dinosaurs.
Yeah, I guess.
They are gone.
And it is scary because we see what's happening. And
hey, boys and girls, let me tell you this. I want you to go to cowboylogic.us. Cowboylogic.us. Mm-hmm. We have got on cowboylogic.us an audio player. You can click on that player and you can hear me 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, any hour of the day. Donna will be chiming in as well. But you can check me out.
Why?
Because we've got Cowboy Logic Radio playing 24/7. We are so egotistical and we are so into ourselves and we think we are so damn great that we just play our own shows 24/7. And why, do you ask? Because we were asked to do that for you, our beloved listeners. Cowboy Logic Radio 24/7. Go to cowboylogic.us. Donna, we've got a faboo, if I can use Audrey Russo's term.
A faboo.
A faboo, fubu, fabu, babu, bam bam.
Show.
This
is true.
Tonight, who do we have coming up? Big D.
We're actually going...
Big birthday girl, Donna.
Dr. ALVEDA King. She's an evangelist. She's going to be talking about an actual cookbook that she's got coming up, among other things, for the holidays. And
a record she's done.
Yes, and Dr. Carol SWAIN, who is a former law professor, an author, and a speaker, and she is a conservative professor that basically got ousted. We'll talk to her about what's going on in her life now with what's just the politically correct bullcrap on college campuses today. And Dr. ELAINA George, she's going to close the show talking about health care.
What is this, a night with the doctors?
The doctors, yes. In fact, the
doctors are in. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be right back after this break. Don't go anyplace. You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Come on, take my dark sunglasses. I'm on take my dark sunglasses.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. And our very special guest for a few minutes, because her time is so precious, is Dr. ALVEDA King. She's the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King. She's a former Georgia congresswoman, but she's also an evangelist, director of civil rights for the unborn for Priests for Life. And the holidays are so important. Dr. ALVEDA King is here to talk about the holidays. Her cookbook, Gigi's Home for the Holidays cookbook, whose second edition comes out December 15th. And she has a new album, Tender Moments Alone with God. And again, she's here to put all this together with what really is happening in America today, and most importantly, the need for love and unity. So important today. Dr. ALVEDA King, thank you for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Well, hello, Donna, Don, listening audience, and if you're watching them on the internet a little bit too, or YouTube, hello and Merry Christmas to everyone. And I love the concept of Cowboy Logic. That's just marvelous.
That's how we started, because it was just common sense. And so we named it Cowboy Logic Radio.
Makes sense.
Since we have a farm
Okay.
out here in Carrollton, Georgia. Tell us about how you can tie this all together. And yes, we don't say Happy Holidays anymore. We can say Merry Christmas.
You know, that was one of the things that caused me to vote for our president, President Donald John Trump. When he says, we'll say Merry Christmas again, I said, yes! You know, and of course he said save babies and give people jobs. And now he's saying get people out of jail, bring the daddies and mommies back together to raise the children. So I just love all of that. Wow. Mm-hmm.
It is true. So tell us about your new cookbook.
Well, this is the second edition of Gigi's Home for the Holidays, and I'm Gigi. It's either Georgia's gorgeous grandma or gangster grandma, just depending on what's going on. And so my children tell me, and my grandchildren tell me, I can be a little gangster. I can be tough when it comes to issues of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and certainly God as a Christian evangelist. But we did the cookbook, the first cookbook we began working on in 2015. We did a YouTube cooking show with the family, King Family Legacy, and then a corresponding cookbook came out after that. And it gives some of the King family, the family that birthed Martin Luther King Jr., my daddy, Reverend A.D. King, my Aunt Christine, Daddy King and Mama King, and into the generations. I've even got some little QR codes in there, and if you scan them, you can even see some of my grandchildren cooking in the book. Isn't that amazing?
What kind of food? What kind of food? What kind of food, Dr.
Well,
King?
interestingly enough, I found out a few years ago I was having challenges with weight and inflammation. The weight is coming off now, but I found out that I was gluten sensitive to tomatoes, believe it or not, chicken with my B-positive blood. So there are all the recipes. I don't think there are any tomato recipes in there. Well, the meatloaf I did traditional and the other one. But I used carrot puree, sweet potato puree, different kinds of things, squash puree to thicken even our spaghetti sauce and our chili. But then roasting various meats that are very popular during the holidays and some gluten-free desserts. So, but everything, people tell me they're all yummy because we did a test kitchen for almost a year on all those recipes and had different people eating and tasting them. So people seem to like it. And I'll be on 700 Club. I'm on Cornerstone TV, Johnny's show on Daystar. Different times they'll call me in to cook some of those recipes. So they say they like them.
All right, so let me ask you this, because out of everything that you just said and mentioned, all the different types of food, the one thing that is very popular in my house, in our house, I should say, is spaghetti sauce. Okay?
Yes.
I'm Italian.
Yes.
What can I say?
Donna's a New Jersey Italian, and so we have created our own spaghetti sauce that has a magic special ingredient in it, Dr. King. We have an entire rack of spare ribs in our meat sauce.
Wow.
And so I wanted to get your
that is
professional opinion on that.
I say that's absolutely marvelous.
Yes, ma'am.
And what's your address? You can kind of, when we get off air, tell me. I'll be over soon.
Okay, not a problem.
Yeah,
Oh, we'll bring him into Atlanta for you. Don works in Atlanta, so we can bring it into Atlanta
That's
for you.
amazing. But
right,
really fast, what we do is take the squash puree instead of the tomato sauce and do the same things. And then we do a lot of the olive oil and garlicky sauces. So
Yes, ma'am.
All of
That's my
in there.
fave.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, I grew up in the world of music. Prior to us doing this interview with you, I mentioned the late Dr. Cleveland Denard. I went to school with Ann Denard, his daughter. And was at the Northside School of Performing Arts, which really isn't what it was back when I was there in the 70s. But it is.
My son graduated from that school, too, in the 80s. So, yeah, you're right.
All right, so you probably remember Billy Densmore. And,
I do. Jared was he was Jared's mentor. Yes, I do.
Yes, ma'am. Well, my father is in his mid-80s and has just retired from a lifelong 60-year career in the world of music. And so I wanted to ask you about this album. I didn't know that you were doing this kind of stuff.
Let your dad hear it, too. This is my third album. I've been musically involved, even doing music theater. I've been in the films. I was in Sharky's Machine with Burt Reynolds all the way back there.
Yep.
I'm a singer-songwriter. I write songs and I sing a little bit, and I'm on the worship team at my church. But I was inspired by an album, I think it came out in the 80s, called Alone with God by Coach Bill McCartney and some beautiful singers and musicians. And it inspired me because I used to do popular music, sing in a few nightclubs and things before I was born again in 83. So this particular album, I have three. One is Let Freedom Ring, and then the remix to Let Freedom Ring, and then Tender Moments Along with God. But it's hymns and spirituals that I grew up with as a child and some original music. It has 2 CDs. You can get it on Amazon. It's on iHeart Music, radio. And so I even have a Christmas album song on there, Oh Holy Night. So you might want to play that on your show.
That's Don's favorite. Don's favorite.
That's my favorite.
We only have a couple minutes left, Dr. Alveda King. I want you to talk about civil rights for the unborn.org. That's so important.
Well, the babies. I work for Priests for Life. That's a Catholic organization. I'm a non-denominational Christian. I attend Believers Bible Christian Church in Atlanta. But I work with Father Frank Paval, Janet Morana, and a beautiful team. And we are informing, educating, and activating the communities about the sanctity of life from the womb to the tomb. So a woman really does have a right to choose what she does with her body, but the baby is not her body. And as a civil rights leader, I can ask the question, where's the lawyer for the baby? What about the human rights of that little person in the womb? So we inform, educate, and activate our communities about voting for the sanctity of life, first praying for the sanctity of life, voting for the sanctity of life, and incorporating that into our everyday life. So that means we want people to be born. We want them to be healthy. We want them to be cared for, provided for, and we want them to live into rich, mature lives. So from the womb to the tomb, natural death. That is really my goal as director of Civil Rights for the Unborn. I'm sorry about this noise. Oh boy.
Hey, listen,
Okay.
Dr. King, like we talked about before we went on the air, I do a weekly show in addition to Cowboy Logic called the Drive Time Sit Rep, and it's entirely recorded with me driving the lovely streets of Atlanta, Georgia.
And, of course, it's pouring, and we
my
do hear
goodness.
that in your car.
Yes.
We have just a minute left. Can you give a little Christmas message to everyone this holiday season?
Yes, I can. If you're like many people, you've experienced loss during this time of person, property, loved ones, be encouraged. Jesus loves you. We love you right here in this conversation. So we love you. Be encouraged. And for those who are enjoying the holiday and saying Merry Christmas again, enjoy it. But it's not so much about the material things, although I love to give and receive gifts myself. But give of your time, your love. Make a dozen brownies and knock on the neighbor's door, something like that. But Jesus, we say this is because of Jesus in John 3:16. For God so loved the world, each and every one of us listening, that he gave his only begotten Son, Jesus, that whosoever believes on Jesus will not perish but have eternal life.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Before you say goodbye, tell everybody how they can find this great cookbook and all of your books, as well as your albums. How can they find it?
Autographed copies are available at ALVEDAKing.com. You can find them all over the internet as well. And then civil rights information, civil rights for the unborn.org.
Civil rights for the unborn.org at Alveda.
And ALVEDAKing.com.
Right,
Yes.
AlvedaKing.com, and on Twitter at Alveda C. King. Alveda King, Dr. Alveda King, thank you so much for giving us your time this holiday season, and we so cherish our time with you, and hopefully we can do it again sometime. Drive safe and
Thank
have
you.
a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Wow. What an honor to speak to Dr. Alveda King, niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, former Georgia Congresswoman, now an evangelist, director of civil rights for the unborn, for Priests for Life. Dr.
And I want to get her
Alveda
cookbook because that sounds
really
pretty
cool.
darn good.
Yep. So the holidays are so important. Family is all that really matters when you think about it. I want to change gears, though, here because Mark Levin encapsulated...
The Denali, the great one.
The great one. CRTV.
He's a big fan of Cowboy Logic Radio.
I'm sure he is. Encapsulated the Mueller investigation on his radio show back on November 28th.
It was unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. We have pulled the audio from his first two segments. You're going to see where he drops out and goes into the next segment. But we're giving this to you in its entirety. It is phenomenal. Get a piece of paper and get ready to take some notes as the master, as the great one, Mark Levin, educates all of us
on the Mueller investigation.
This Mueller investigation is one of the greatest abuses of power in modern American history. His appointment was an abuse of power. It violated Department of Justice rules. There was no criminal basis for the investigation. Schumer and the Democrats and the media pushed for it, so they got it. Rod Rosenstein is a coward, a very weak man, and he wanted to cover his own tracks because he recommended the firing of Comey. We know what Comey is. We know what the senior officials at the FBI were, and we know what they did. They were the ones who interfered with the election. They were the ones who were trying to elect Hillary Clinton. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what Mr. Mueller is doing, destroying lives and trying to justify what he's been up to, is really, truly un-American. That's not what our criminal justice system is all about. The efforts by members of Congress to actually pass a statute to protect Mueller from being fired by the President of the United States, Senator Mike Lee is right, and of course I've said it many, many times, is a clear violation of the separation of powers of our Constitution. There's no question about it. There are individuals who hate Trump. There are individuals who want this coup to take place, and so they will back anything and anyone who tries to take out this president. And there's almost nobody standing up to this. This is what the old Soviet Union looked like. When people are dragged in front of prosecutors, they look at your records, they try and catch you in slip-ups, memory losses, and then throw you into the gulag, unless you give them what they want. Some prosecutors will tell you, well, this is the way we normally operate. Well, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. The President of the United States did not collude with Russia, and everybody knows it. The Clinton campaign colluded with Russia, and everybody knows it. And so we're supposed to live this lie day in and day out. And the whole point of this, ladies and gentlemen, is to hugely burden an elected president, who you elected, many of you elected, to try and prevent him from doing what he said he wanted to do. This coup, this effort to undermine a legitimately elected president, there was no reason for Mueller to be appointed in the first place. We didn't need a special counsel to investigate these individuals. And as I've said from day one, the Department of Justice's policy has been for almost half a century that you cannot indict a sitting president. So what's the point of this? Point of this is the Democrat Party, the media, and some Republicans are using a criminal investigation for political purposes to try and impeach a president of the United States. And so this is what I want to say. I've given this a great deal of thought. Somebody has to protect the Constitution here. It's not going to be the media, even though they wrap themselves in the free press. It's certainly not going to be the Democrats. They have so many similarities to the old Soviets. It's certainly not going to be most of the Republicans because they're soft progressives that are scared of their own shadows. If President Trump decides not to run for re-election, he should fire Mueller. He should fire his whole team. He should pardon everybody involved with these Mickey Mouse charges of false statements. And tell the House, go ahead and impeach me, and Senate, go ahead and remove me, because this is simply unacceptable. Simply unacceptable what's happening to our country, what's happening here. You have Republicans who pretend to be constitutionalists, like Jeff Flake, actually going to the floor of the Senate, pushing for a bill that is utterly and completely unconstitutional. where Congress would tell a president of the United States that he cannot fire somebody in the executive branch. Then we're told by the same malcontents and miscreants who triggered this entire fiction, who've dragged this nation through this day in and day out, as the Chinese are on the move, and the Russians are on the move, and the Iranians are on the move. Our enemies are on the move, and they love every bit of this. They're telling us the president better not pardon anybody. The pardon power is in the Constitution, and we don't need Democrats in the media and miscreant Republicans to define it for us. We see it, we read it, we know what it is. Meanwhile, the special counsel is not in the Constitution. Nowhere in the Constitution. And when you have a media and a Democrat Party and some Republicans who argue for more due process rights for terrorists in Guantanamo Bay than for the President of the United States, I've had it up to here. We all know what the hell's going on here. We all know what the hell's going on here. And I'll go even further. Whoever the Democrat is next to be President of the United States, he or she should be treated exactly the same way. Because if they're not, this will never come to an end. A bogus investigation. A bogus media. A bogus Democrat Party. Bogus Republicans. Men and women have fought for this Constitution. From the earliest days, they put their lives on the line. To see these snake oil salesmen, this current crop of politicians, this current crop of so-called journalists, throw it all away, is enough. The president's supposed to just sit there, you see, according to the media and the Democrats and some Republicans. Just sit there. He better not use the pardon power. He better not fire anybody. He better not do this. Who the hell do they think they are? Now, I know damn well that if he takes the steps I suggest, he will be impeached and likely removed. I know it. But if he decides he doesn't want to run for re-election at some point, then he should do it. And we sit here and we watch this phony issue. Did the media care about the IRS scandal? Where's your evidence? Where's your proof? Did Eric Holder appoint a special counsel? No. Did the media care about Fast and Furious? No. Did Eric Holder appoint a special counsel since he was in charge of it? No. Not a damn thing. President of the United States appoints as an acting attorney general a gentleman by the name of Matthew Whitaker. I have no idea who he is, other than his pedigree, other than his resume. He's been a U.S. attorney. There's nothing to suggest in any way that he's untoward. Nothing. But they seek to destroy him. They seek to destroy him. Why? Because they want Rosenstein in charge. Because he's a wet noodle, that's why. Because he rubber stamps Mueller. And the courts, they're no better. They're no better at all. When the Republicans elect a president, they throw in with the opposition. That's quite obvious, Mr. Chief Justice. Quite obvious. Mr. Mueller's appointment, I don't care what the courts say. I can read the Constitution, is unconstitutional. Look at the power this man has. The power to trigger an impeachment of a United States president? Does any U.S. attorney have that power? No. But he's just an inferior employee, just like an assistant U.S. attorney. My ass he is. And look at this investigation. It's embarrassing. The people he's interviewing, what he's threatening them with. This is a rogue prosecutor. This is a Star Chamber operation. And nobody has the gonads to stand up to this. Nobody. But I will. Everybody being investigated by this man should fight it. Fight him in court. Fight him over every damn document. Fight him over every subpoena. Fight him. To the last damn plug nickel. Then I would strongly recommend the President of the United States pardon every damn one of them. We're dealing with this tyranny, and it is tyranny. The media love to say that they're there for freedom of the press. No, they're not. They've destroyed freedom of the press. You and I, we defend the First Amendment. All of it. You and I, we defend the Second Amendment. We defend all the Bill of Rights. They don't. They pick and choose. If we're up to them, there'd be no Second Amendment. Or Ninth or 10th Amendment. Or other parts of the Constitution that they read out of the Constitution. The whole progressive movement is a movement against constitutional government. The whole progressive movement is represented by the likes of Bernie Sanders. And they will do anything for power, and they will do anything to turn this country inside out. They have us at each other's throats on race, at each other's throats on sex, at each other's throats, no matter what. They're ripping this country apart. You have a legitimate presidential election. President wins the Electoral College. They tell us the Electoral College is racist, and they want to change it. Until they won the House of Representatives, they said we need to double the size of the House of Representatives. Always tinkering. And it's interesting, not to get us back to our basic values and our original principles, no, to advance their cause. And taking out Trump advances their cause. I don't care if you're a Trump supporter or conservative, whatever the hell you are. You got to stand for the damn Constitution. Because that's all there is between tyranny and liberty. Freedom of the press. Jim Acosta represents freedom of the press by going into the White House press room and browbeating a woman press secretary. That's freedom of the press? Really? Or clowns on TV like Jake Tapper lying about lies of the President of the United States? Tapper knows he's a leftist. And you and I who elected Trump president, you and I are supposed to sit back and just watch all of this unravel. Adam Schiff, he would have been great in the old Soviet Union. I can see him in the uniform, working his way into court. Oh, he would have been great there. He is a despicable snake. Despicable. All you had to do is look at the border the last few weeks to see what the Democrat Party is up to. Look at the border. They don't even want to defend our border. They don't even want to defend national sovereignty. Suddenly that's a partisan issue. I keep hearing people on TV, even on our favorite cable channel, one of them go on, you and I are angry because more and more brown people and yellow people and red people and black people are coming into the country. Who the hell thinks like this? We just want people to follow the rules. I am tired of having them project their biases and their bigotry onto us. We are a good people. We are a beneficent people. We're all over the world defending people of color. In Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria. The vast majority of people who come here legally are people of color. We don't need lectures by the liberals. And we certainly don't need lectures by Democrats who have yet to come to grips with their own history of slavery and segregation and Jim Crow. That's not on us, that's on them. But trying to take out a president of the United States is simply disgraceful. They have nothing on Trump. Hillary Clinton lost this election fair and square. She was a lousy candidate. She didn't resonate with part of the Democrat base. Trump did, and they cannot tolerate it. The media were furious because they predicted Trump would get blown out. They despised him. The Democrat Party is trying to claw back the 2016 election. And Mr. Mueller, who's in their back pocket, what does he do, ladies and gentlemen? He hires Democrats and donors to Democrats. He doesn't even try to have an appearance of bipartisanship or objectivity. He's in your face. And why wouldn't he be? He hears members of Congress, including Republicans, say, we need to protect Mueller. Let's protect the rogue prosecutor, while he's stomping all over the United States Constitution. There should never have been a special counsel in this case. And this special counsel is unconstitutional. And the things that he is doing to individuals to destroy their lives should shock everybody. Because let me tell you a little secret. If they can do this to a president, to his family, they can do this to a retired lieutenant general, if they can do this to these people, they can do it to anybody. Anybody. The civil libertarians don't even exist anymore. The ACLU doesn't even exist anymore. The phony conservatives on these various websites and so forth, they are pathetic. The way they write is pathetic. Well, I don't always agree with him, but sometimes I do. But when he does, well, I agree with him. I got my issues, but not on this. Not on this. Those other policy issues should be put aside. Language and tweets should be put aside. This is our Constitution, and it's being shredded. It's being shredded, and the Democrats are applauding. Mr. Flake is applauding. The media are applauding. These were the enemies of Trump before he got elected, and they're the enemies of Trump now. We do not have a free press in this country. We have a liberal press in this country. This president hasn't done a single thing to use the power of government to interfere with freedom of the press, unlike past presidents. This president has not unleashed the FBI against reporters the way Barack Obama did, the way Eric Holder did. No special counsel there. No demands by Adam Schiff for hearings there. No demands by Mark Warner for hearings there. No. And who has abused the pardon power? Bill Clinton abused the pardon power. Who else? Barack Obama. He pardoned a terrorist. A Puerto Rican terrorist. I'll be right back.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen, and this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. Our guest this half hour is Dr. Carol M. SWAIN. She is the voice behind Be the People News, which is a blog and a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals to think independently, understand their responsibility, and believe in their unique ability to make a difference in the world. Something that isn't taught anymore at the university level or even pre-university level, Dr. SWAIN. And you can find her at, she's got a number of different places. On Facebook, it's Prof. Carol M., as in Mary, SWAIN. On Twitter, at Carol M. SWAIN, and carolmswain.com. And Dr. SWAIN, many people may say, gee, I remember that name. Where do I remember it from? You were in Dinesh D'Souza's movie, Hillary's America. That's where we first saw you. We've been trying to get you on ever since, and here you are finally, Dr. Carol SWAIN. Thank you for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
It's my pleasure.
Now, at the time, you were working as a professor at Vanderbilt University. Tell us what happened after this.
I mean, I worked at Vanderbilt for about 18 years, and before that I taught at Princeton. I took early retirement from Vanderbilt in 2016, and since then I've been writing and speaking and, trying to change the world. And one of the things that I see happening is that conservatives, especially Christians, are losing, more and more of their rights in America. And this nation that we have today, it's at a point that I would never have imagined it being, in my lifetime, as far as our constitutional rights as people when it comes to freedom of religion and freedom of speech for ideas that are conservative.
It's classic Marxism. You got to get rid of God, and the country and the government becomes your new religion, unfortunately. And that is started at such a young level now in our public education system. I call it a public indoctrination system, really. And that scares me because my kids, and Don's kids actually, are in their mid-20s. They're probably going to be okay. But the next generation coming up, and these millennials now that are coming up, I really fear for our country and the fact that we are leaving. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. it's not just the children, because the indoctrination even affects adults. It's affecting our churches. And you're right. It's all about cultural Marxism. And people are allowing themselves to be bullied and intimidated to the point that they're not speaking up when they should be.
Absolutely. You have a book called Debating Immigration, which is available on Amazon. And your latest article is Reasonable or Racist? Trump's Policies on the Central American Caravan. Fill us in on that, because I kind of agree with you on that. It's reasonable. It's not racist.
Well, I also want to tell you that since that was published, I've also published in the Epoch Times How Political Correctness Impedes Immigration Reform, and an article on birthright citizenship, whether or not a constitutional amendment is needed to change that. And so I've been very busy focused on immigration because our nation is facing a crisis. And with the caravan, it really, just highlighted the situation for millions of Americans. But most people are not aware of the immigration laws to the point that they can really assess whether the president is right or wrong. In the article that you referred to, I take the reader through, just what the law says about asylum and who can be an asylee. And the president, the court, has tried to block him from an executive order that said that the migrant caravanners had to apply at a port of entry. They could not just flood into the U.S. and then apply for asylum, because if they all ask for asylum, that comes with a lot of rights and privileges that would keep them in the country, would bog down the system even more, because already there's a long waiting list to get before a federal judge. And so this is really a leftist strategy to bog down the system, and the president and people who study immigration are aware that the migrants are being coached, to game our system. And so to get political asylum in the U.S., you have to have a well-founded fear of persecution based on your religion, your national origin, your belonging to a particular social group, or your political opinion. Those people in the caravan say that they are fleeing gang violence, poverty, some domestic abuse, and others just want a job. Well, just want a job and want to get away from my country because it's not a great country. That's not enough to get asylum. And so the president is right for keeping people outside the U.S. when he knows about 80 to 85% of the people who apply from Central America, their applications are going to be denied.
Well, and the thing is, you've also got a situation now where we have Trump in office, that he is being advised by experts and constitutional scholars on how to adhere and utilize the great work that's found in the Constitution. Unfortunately, all those on the left and what we've all been tolerating for the past 8+ years has been the exact antithesis of that, in which you've got scholars, constitutional scholars, that are coaching an administration to circumvent, bend, alter, get around the Constitution. And what Trump's having to go up against, as everybody knows, are a lot of these circuit judges in which these guys have the power to actually turn over the will of the people and the actions of the president, even though they are constitutional. It's like nothing that I ever expected I would ever see happening to the United States. I never dreamed that we could get to the point where we're at, and clearly it can get worse. But I think that, you mentioned just a minute ago, you never thought you'd see this kind of stuff.
No, it's getting worse by leaps and bounds, but we are also woke. Like the president has awakened a lot of us, and some of us have known for a while what was taking place. During the Obama administration, between 2009 and I believe it's 2016, I have the right date in my article, the number of migrants from Central America who asked for asylum to stay in the U.S. jumped from normally there's like 5,000 a year to 94,000. And so clearly people are being coached. One writer referred to it as magic words, that they learn the magic words, and if they could not speak any English, they could say that word as soon as they got across the border. And it comes with rights and privileges to be before a judge. If you're allowed to stay in the country, as many have been allowed to stay, it might mean 8 to 9 years down the road, you get before an immigration judge. Most of those people, or a certain percentage of them, will not show up for the court hearing, and so they become part of the illegal population. So no country in its right mind would allow people to game that system.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking with the great Dr. Carol Swain. We have wanted to have her on our show for a number of years now. So, Dr. Swain, this is something that Donna and I greatly appreciate, is that you're giving us your time today. You've been in some films, or a film that was done by a couple of our dear good friends, Dinesh D'Souza and Jerry Molan, in which you talk about many things, but specifically in the film that you were in by
Hillary's America.
Yeah, it was a racial thing. And if you don't mind, I want to go back to something that I read about you that I didn't know, and that had to do with something that took place at Vanderbilt, in which you, as a black professor, black female professor.
For 18 years at the time.
Which, by the way, in my humble opinion, you, Dr. Swain, are the absolute greatest threat to the Democrat Party and the biggest asset that conservatives or the Republican Party could ever have. A female, a black female, and a professor. I don't think that there is a greater threat to liberalism than someone like you. I pale in comparison.
Well, there's even more. Part of my story is that I was a high school dropout. I was one of 12 children born and raised in rural poverty. I got a high school equivalency, went to a community college, worked full-time in the community college library after I graduated, while I was getting a 4-year degree at a private school, graduated magna cum laude, and went on to get 5 college university degrees, taught at Princeton, got early tenure. I won national prizes. I had the left's good housekeeping seal of approval, but then I had a Christian conversion experience, and that changed me, and it also kicked me out of the club. I was never really in the club. But I am a threat because I show that the American dream is alive and real and there for any and all of us. And that is the biggest threat, is that they want to tell people lies, and they have to keep a certain segment of the population oppressed. And I'm here as living proof that they're lying.
Well, many times when I've been having debates with liberals, and
it doesn't happen a lot lately because they don't want to hear it anymore. That's the problem.
But I'm going to tell you something. For 8 years, it was nonstop, and I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. Oftentimes, when I'm having a debate with a liberal, and they will throw at me the race card, they will throw out the whole, label me a racist. I trump that, no pun intended, and have trumped it hundreds of times with the following statement. Well, it might shock you that you would find me to be a Frederick Douglass Republican, and it shuts them down. But Dr. Swain, I now have a second card in my hand. I can be called a Dr. Carol Swain Republican.
You need to tell the Republican Party, because I never felt warmly welcome. Part of it has to do with, if you come out of the Democratic Party, that there are elements of the Republicans that are so elitist that they don't accept you. Is it embracing people that come out of the Democratic Party and are not trying to change them into the Democratic Party? I became a Democrat largely because of the values and principles, the Republican platform. And so, hey, I'm on board with the platform, but I have never felt warmly welcomed by Republicans.
Well, there was and I'll make this brief because in previous shows I've talked about it. About 5 or 6 years ago, Donna and I were attending the South Carolina Tea Party Coalition Convention. And it happened to be at a midterm year, if I'm not mistaken.
Lindsey Graham was running for re-election.
And there was a character that was running against Lindsey Graham. And I believe that his last name was Cash. And I was standing at his table at this convention center, and I had one question that I wanted to ask this man. Now, you got to remember, Dr. Swain, that I'm standing there in a pair of Wrangler jeans, cowboy boots, cowboy hat. I didn't look like beard. I really belonged there.
Scruffy beard.
Okay. And so when I had the opportunity to ask this guy a question, I said, Mr. Cash, what is on your platform that will bring back black South Carolinians to the Republican Party where they belong? He looked at me like deer in the headlights, Dr. Swain. And then he looked away and ignored me and never answered me. So I sat there and I'm thinking, well, do I walk away or do I tap this goofball on the shoulder and ask the question again? Well, I did the latter. And I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, I guess you didn't hear my question. What is it about your policy and your platform that you're going to do to bring back black Americans in South Carolina to the Republican Party where they need to be, where they will be welcomed? And he ignored me a second time, Dr. Swain. So I looked over at a friend of mine that was standing next to us, had a booth right next to this guy. Cash was his name. And I kind of winked and nodded, tapped Cash on the shoulder a third time. I said, I'm going to give you 3 shots at this, man. I'm going to pitch you 3 pitches. So far, you've swung at 2 of them.
2 strikes.
What are you going to do to bring back the black Americans to the Republican Party in South Carolina because they have outlived their usefulness to the Democrat Party? And he ignored me a third time. And I said, Bud, you are completely you're not going to win. You are not going to win because the answer is standing 6 feet away from you. And I pointed to K. Carl Smith, head of Frederick Douglass Republicans, who had his table right next to him. And the guy completely missed the boat.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've been saying for years, and I was labeled a racist for this. The Democrat Party no longer needs to use black Americans. They've outlived their usefulness to that party.
They take them for granted.
And for the life of me, I don't understand why you would have anything other than an embracing from the GOP, from the Republican Party. I don't get it.
Let me be clear. What I have experienced is not about race. I think it's about the fact that I was a Democrat, and it could be social class. You know, I come from, poverty. And there are plenty of Republicans that support me. I go to a church that's predominantly white, and I'm treated with love, and so is my mother and my family, anyone that comes in with me. So it's not about race. I think it's about maybe even about conservatism, because I'm a Bible-believing Christian. I'm pro-life, and there are so many Republicans that have an identity crisis. They really want to be Democrats, and I wish we could help them transition.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what really gets me. You've got these rhinos in Washington, D.C. Look at Jeff Flake. I mean, you got the other idiot that just got elected in Arizona. Jeff Flake and her are basically the same. A woman who pretty much said it's okay to go join ISIS or the Taliban, and she gets elected as a Democrat senator, replacing Flake when Dr. Kelly Ward, who was ahead of Flake by like 20 points, lost because she was way too conservative and putting time behind her.
There's a lot of things going on, and I believe that some of these races that have gone on and on and on, and even now in North Carolina, there are people that the Board of Elections, they have not certified Mark Harris's win. And the Democrats, keep finding votes until they can oust Republicans. And so I think that every time these elections go 4 days past Election Day, that we have to view everything with great suspicion. So there's a serious problem going on. And you're right about Flake. I mean, he's a flake, but
aptly
I
named.
can say that given the fact that Lindsey Graham has found himself now that John McCain isn't around, and I respect Lindsey Graham at a level that I never thought I would. So there's hope for everyone. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think we should write off any of the rhinos because they can always have a come to Jesus moment.
Well, that's what, in fact, Don had a funny thing that he pulled off Facebook, and he sent me a picture of it with Donald Trump with his hands out, and the caption read, "He's even made Lindsey Graham great again." You know, I thought was pretty funny. But the thing is, we're talking with Dr. Carol Swain. Again, folks, if you've seen her before in Dinesh D'Souza's Hillary's America movie, but she is an outspoken woman now, the voice behind Be the People News, a blog and podcast. And she's dedicated her time now to empowering individuals to think independently, understand their responsibility, and believe in their unique ability to make a difference in the world. That's one thing we have here, Dr. Carol Swain. We still have that freedom. And the thing that gets me so annoyed is, and Don works in the rock and roll bus industry. He works with so many different people. Until Barack Obama was elected, he had never been called a racist by anybody. And what's happening now is if you don't toe the party line, it doesn't matter what color you are, you're a racist. Candace Owens of Turning Point USA, a white supremacist, they were calling her. So I guess anything is possible. Vanderbilt obviously chastised you. This is crazy, insane.
Yes.
I want to find out,
what happened?
Dr. Swain, very quickly, did you ever go ahead and take those diversity courses that the students at Vanderbilt expected you to take?
No, of course not. In fact, I tweeted out something that made them angrier. I said only an idiot would think that, I think I was 62 at the time, a 62-year-old woman who's taught, in academia so many years would benefit from diversity training, something like that. I tweeted, whatever I tweeted made them angrier. And I ran afoul of the university environment, not just only for existing, but I wrote an opinion piece in the local paper that criticized Islam. And I did not realize that I had touched the third rail of politics. And so that set in motion harassment from the students. And, of course, the LGBT students got involved. They had been totally out of it. Never had problems with Muslims or LGBT people until that opinion piece. And so that was the beginning of a huge shift in the environment as far as I was concerned. I left the university by choice. The university did not pressure me to leave, but I decided that we only had this one life to live, and I'm at this stage, I'm in my 60s, that I wanted to, be able to use my talents in a way that, in a de-stressed environment, I guess.
It's funny, Dr. Carol Swain, you also worked at Princeton. I'm from New Jersey. I worked at the Fox News Channel for a number of years before I, too, was kind of retiring or attempted to retire. Just unfortunately am not going to sit back and take it anymore. But I had 30 years of journalist experience at all the major networks also in New York City. And to me, journalism is dead. You have to toe the party line, and that's it. They cannot think for themselves. And unfortunately, Dr. Carol Swain, we only got about 30 seconds left for you to comment on this. I feel that's really happening also at the university level. You toe the party line, or you are going to be chastised.
Well, it's happening for conservatives and Christians, and there's no white person in the world that can defend themselves or live a life that will prevent them from being called a racist. As soon as they open their mouths, say anything that the left doesn't like, they're racist. They criticize immigration, they're xenophobe or nativist. So you might as well talk.
Exactly. Dr. Carol Swain, find her on Facebook at Prof, as in Professor, Prof. Carol M, as in Mary Swain. On Twitter at Carol M. Swain, carolmswain.com, and her latest book, Debating Immigration, can be found on Amazon. Read all her stuff at her website, carolmswain.com. And again, she is behind Be the People News, a blog and podcast dedicated to empowering individuals. Dr. Carol Swain, thank you so much for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
And coming up next, Dr. ELAINA George talking healthcare. It's all coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. And our special guest for this segment is somebody that is the go-to doctor when it comes to healthcare and quote-unquote healthcare reform, which to me is more like healthcare destroying, but that's another story. And that's Dr. ELAINA George. And Dr. ELAINA, we first saw you on Newsmax many years ago. We've had you on the show a few times, and unfortunately we have this slippery slope now of healthcare destruction being done by the federal government. But let me tell everybody a little more about you. You are the author of Big Medicine, The Cost of Corporate Control and How Doctors and Patients Working Together Can Rebuild a Better System. And you're board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist here in Atlanta. You are New York educated, really the best. Princeton, New Jersey, Princeton, and also was it Mount Sinai? I'm sorry, Mount Sinai, Manhattan Eye, Ear, and Throat. And you have a master's in microbiology from Long Island University. Do you have any room left on your wall with all of these certificates?
Well, hey, Dr. George.
Yes.
I attended the University of Tennessee. Now, I don't want to sound like an elitist or anything, but...
She's also on the advisory council of Project 21. Is that still going on? Black Leadership Network, which is an initiative of the National Center for Public Policy Research. And you host Medicine on Call, right?
I do. And I'm also out there trying to educate patients about how you work around this system. So I joined the National Physicians Council for Healthcare Policy as well. We've been trying to get up on Capitol Hill to let them know what's really going on the front line. So it's kind of an all hands on deck type of situation here.
And we first met you when we talked about Liberty Health Share, which is a health sharing ministry, which really cuts health insurance costs down, and it's people helping people. And it's just a wonderful thing. Both you and full disclosure, and Don and I are, I guess we should say, members of Liberty Health Share.
But we're not paid spokesmen.
No, we are not paid spokesmen by any stretch of the imagination because we just believe in the system. But Dr. ELAINA George, the real problem I'm seeing now, it's like the Democrats can never get enough. Okay, they got Obamacare without one single Republican vote. They still are, and now they're blaming Trump for the fact that it's not working. And what I'm hearing now, which is very distressing, is they want single payer, which we knew they all wanted from the beginning, but now they're talking about single payer for Medicare, not just Medicaid. They want to put it all together. Am I correct in that assumption?
That's correct. It's just a name change just to try to let people drop their guards. Medicare for all is what they're trying to term it now, but it's really single payer. The Medicare system is going bankrupt. It's not one of those situations where if you're in it, you're completely happy. They've shifted a lot of the cost to the patient already. They've have a system that's set up to ration care through the accountable care organizations, and that means it's a capitated system. The government gives the hospitals a certain amount of money per year. They make their profit based on what care they don't give. So every time they admit a patient, do a CT, do a surgery, they're actually losing money from their bottom line. So we've seen a movement towards keeping people out of the hospital or getting them out as fast as possible or putting them in a hospice or doing telemedicine. And the sickest patients are really the ones that are really kind of on the hook in this type of system. They want to apply that to everybody. So it's already bankrupt, right? So they're going to add 300 million people into this bankrupt system. But it's just like the Affordable Care Act. You ask them, how much is it going to cost? And they give you the same line. You have to pass it to find out what's in it. I think if we already fell for this trap once, we'd be insane to do it again.
Talk a little bit about the fact that for the third year in a row, and this just came out this past week, life expectancy in the United States has gone down. And they sit there and they go, well, they blame opioids and all that. I'm sure that didn't help. But to me, it's a very funny coinkydink that this correlates with when Obamacare is really kicking in.
I think it's a combination. Certainly the opioid epidemic is out of control. It's killing a lot of young people all over the country. But you're right. I mean, to people who have severe medical problems, who are, who need really, very strong health care and to be able to access the system routinely, see their physician, they're really not doing that anymore. This is a system where you're spending on average 7 minutes with a physician. You're not necessarily going to see a doctor anymore. You're going to see a mid-level provider more likely, nurse practitioner, physician assistant. And the hospitals are now staffing the mid-levels as the front line. So you can go to an emergency room and actually not see a doctor, go to a hospital and not be taken care of by a doctor on the front line. It's a complete change of the healthcare system. And I had a colleague on my show, Medicine on Call, and she told me something that I didn't know about the Affordable Care Act. I knew that they had set aside a lot of money for mid-level training, nurse practitioners, medical assistants. But what I didn't know is that they put money aside for hospice-trained doctors. So you see what their modus operandi was from the get-go. It wasn't about healthcare. It was about management. It was about population-based medicine, about algorithm-driven medicine, but it wasn't about access or individualized healthcare. And when you start looking at the population, you can see how their mind works. If you have a certain amount of money, you do not want to spend it on the people who are going to use most of the resources, the sickest, the most senior, young children. That's where it's going next, in my opinion. It'll be the young children who are born with catastrophic illnesses. They're going to be the next in line to have their health care kind of rationed, and the rest of us are going to follow. So this is not about helping people. It's about control. And people need to really understand that. They think the Medicare for all is going to make it better. You're going to get your plastic surgery when you want it. It's all going to be free. I got news for you. That's never going to happen.
It never has happened if you look at history, but unfortunately this public education system doesn't teach history for anything. We're talking to Dr. ELAINA George. She is the go-to person, really, and you can find all her stuff at drelainageorge.com. That's ELAINA, George.com. But as far as circumventing this hideous, supposedly Affordable Care Act, which is anything but affordable, Dr. ELAINA George is the go-to person for that. Don has a question.
Dr. George, let me ask you this, and I don't intend to sound ignorant with this question, but I've never had plastic surgery. And when you made that comment just a minute ago, it made me think of something. Now, I understand that there are many procedures that are done in the field of, or in the specialty of plastic surgery that is necessary and should be covered under anybody's insurance policy, or for the, under with the three of us, Liberty Health Share should take care of that. I mean, if I get kicked in the side of the face by a horse and there needs to be a bunch of reconstructive surgery and plastic surgery done, that should be done. But if I want bigger boobs, or if I want a better looking nose job, or if I want my eyes done or a turkey neck dealt with, I don't think that there's a single insurance company that ought to pay for that. And that ought to be something that should only be afforded to those that can pay for it, so it doesn't tax an insurance company. Am I off base on that? Is that the way it is? Do you agree with me? Where are you on that?
I think if it's elective and it's really all cosmetic, no, the patient should be on the hook to pay for that. If it's reconstructive in any way, you've had cancer, you've had to have a mastectomy, you need to have breast reconstruction, that's totally appropriate. Or you're hit in the face and you lose teeth, then you need to have, permanent teeth replacement. That's totally fine. But I think people are of the mindset that any medical procedure will be covered because it's going to be a single payer. And it's not like that. It's not like Now, frankly, we're in a position where the insurance companies are not paying for things that are medically necessary. I don't know if you saw the article that came out about Blue Cross Anthem not paying for emergency room visits after the fact, because in their algorithm system, they get to decide what constitutes an emergency. And I've actually had to write a letter for a patient who was admitted with abdominal, with bleeding from the GI tract. And they tried not to pay that because it wasn't emergency. I'm like, are you serious? And we fought and we won, but this is the type of thing they're doing. So there's no oversight in this thing. The insurance companies are practicing medicine without a license. Nobody's reining them in. There's no consequence. As a matter of fact, if that patient had died, God forbid, the doctor would have been on the hook for practicing malpractice, but the insurance company gets a free ride. This is not appropriate. Imagine if that shifts to the government as the entity that controls access. Who are you going to sue? Good luck with that. So
Exactly.
People need to be very careful about what they're asking for. Whoever has the pocketbook has the power. You better make sure it's you and not the government or some insurance company, because they're going to get to decide the winners and the losers, and you won't have recourse. This is not a good system.
No, I could not agree with you more. And algorithms are really interesting and they're fascinating. And for anybody like myself that is somewhat of a numbers wonk, I mean, I'm kind of into that analytical stuff. It's fascinating. The thing is, it's devastating when it comes to our health. And I'm not interested in some algorithm telling me whether or not I need to have surgery or not, but that's definitely what it's come down to. We have moved so far away from what you initially went into medicine for, that it is absolutely terrifying. Now, Liberty Health Share. Obviously, you're an advocate for that. Donna and I are advocates for Liberty Health Share. We all have it, as we've said before. And how does Liberty Health Share battle all of the negativity that we've been talking about for the past 11 minutes?
Well, it's based outside of the insurance system. So it's based in the cash-based market. You really have to understand a concept. If at this point in our time in our country, it is cheaper to access our healthcare system if you pay out of pocket for it than it is for you to use your insurance card. That system is based on artificial scale of pricing. It's like something called like a value pricing. So let me give you an example of how the whole system works, whether you're a hospital, whether it's an insurance company, even if it's a big pharma, a medication. These middlemen have inserted themselves into the healthcare system, claiming that they're going to save you money. And they charge based on how much money they, quote, save you. So their system is based on the larger the price, the more they get money, the more they get paid. This is a very peculiar and idiosyncratic, and I think criminal, actually, system. So if you go to hospital and they charge you $100,000 for a procedure, the actual value, if you went in there and paid cash, might have been 10. But okay, they're charging you $100,000. You have an insurance card. The insurance plan pays $10,000, or maybe let's say it pays $12,000. It didn't pay the actual price of what it was worth. It paid something higher. But they're telling you that they saved you $80,000 or $70,000 worth of health care. And then they get to charge a percentage based on what they said they saved you. So you see how this works? The more money it costs, the more money they make. Well, they get to tell you how important they are and how much you need them. That's how the system is built on. It's not built on reality. And ultimately, they want it to be as high as it can be because it makes them look good, makes them more money. This is a system that's legal in our, under what Congress has done. You have the anti-kickback law, statutes with a safe harbor. Same thing goes on with Big Pharma, where they produce a drug, they actually give you rebates and kickbacks, and you're getting a little discount card, but it's all based on artificial cost. There's a kickback to the insurance company. There's a kickback to the hospital for picking a particular medication for a formulary, but that is not the actual cost of the medication. Yesterday, I had to look up a medication for a patient who had need of it for an infection. And I'm like, okay, let me do a search to find out what the most, the newest medication is. And I read the blurb about it, how it was kind of pricey. Then I looked it up. It was $3,000 for the medication versus the older, an older drug, which is $20 copay. This is the system that we're living under. The more you need it, the more life, advancing it is, they're going to price you out to oblivion. There's no reason for diabetic drugs to be so expensive. Asthma drugs, things for allergy, that are life-saving. They're really literally killing people, and they're making money on it, and it's legal. This is ridiculous. If Congress would just legislate properly instead of looking at their bottom line, how they're going to get money to run their campaigns, we wouldn't be in this situation.
That's probably the case for everything.
Given the fact that will never happen, Congress legislating properly, there is a wonderful alternative, and that is Liberty Health Share, which is what we've been talking about, among other things here. Now, one of the concerns that people that I speak to about Liberty Health Share, and by the way, we're encouraging everybody to investigate Liberty Health Share and see if that's right for you. But one of the things that I like to do is try to give them real life examples, maybe ask them something that they've had happen in their lives and try to show them how, by going with Liberty Health Share, that they're in good hands. As a doctor, as an ear, nose, and throat doctor, let's talk about, obviously without giving any names, but give me a real common situation that you're dealing with that would require somebody normally coming in and using their insurance card to help cover the cost of this, but how it would be dealt with Liberty Health Share and how they can benefit.
Well, unfortunately, I think people who have commercial insurance plans have a lot of money out of pocket. The deductible and the co-insurance, everybody knows what those are now. I don't think they knew about it at the beginning, but that's the money that you have to pay after you've paid your premium in order for the insurance company to start kicking in the first dollar. It used to be nothing, so you'd pay your copay, you're good. Now I'm seeing people coming in with $5,000, $10,000 deductibles. I think the average is probably about $2,500. So knowing that you have to pay that before your insurance kicks in, if you compare that to Liberty Health Share, the average shared amount is $1,000 per individual per year. So it actually beats a lot of the commercial insurance plans in terms of out-of-pocket right off the bat. Plus, it will cover things that it doesn't cover, like integrative treatments. So if you have an alternative side or holistic bent to your healthcare wants, it will help you cover that. So that's a difference right there. You get to access doctors outside the healthcare system. So the independent doctor is a dying breed. That means a doctor who has a solo or small group practice that is not purchased by the hospital. So they're independent. They run their own show. Direct primary care practices are a great example of this, and I think people should look at that as well. The direct primary care practice is a doctor who will charge you a monthly fee, anywhere from $60 to about $150 for a family of four. Everything that goes on in that doctor's office is covered for that fee, which means you're not getting nickel and dimed. You don't have to come out of pocket for anything. If you need an EKG, if you need blood work, if you need to have prescriptions, because people now are able to prescribe through their office, and it cuts out the middleman. What you're looking for is any way possible to cut out the middleman, because the middleman is where the prices start to jump and the transparency starts to disappear. You don't know how much something is until you've had the service. And what Liberty Health Share will allow you to do is use that towards direct primary care. So it adds a lot of purchasing power to your healthcare needs.
Well, I would also say that middleman is actually plural. I bet there are many, many, many middlemans.
Oh, yeah.
I hate to say it, the hospital administrators make millions, and they don't do anything. Talk a little bit about one thing that was never included in the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and that is tort reform. Just like we're not going to get... That's why we're not going to get any kind of good immigration control here in this country, because half the lawyers in D.C. are immigration lawyers. So there's no tort reform for legal stuff, for medical stuff. So doctors face huge malpractice insurance costs, and they have to pass that on to their patients.
Well, you look at just use the motto, who stands to gain, and then you'll figure out how the system works. And it's not the doctor, and it's not the patient. What we've become is the workhorse, the cost center, the way to make money, and everybody's making money on our backs. They're demonizing the doctor, so the patient is looking at us as the problem. But in actuality, you're absolutely right. You talked about administrators. An average hospital has a 16-to-1 administrator to doctor ratio. That says a lot. So when you spend this $1,500 for your CT when it's really about $250 in a freestanding radiology center, you have to understand you're paying the administrators, the CEO, the case managers. You're paying everybody but the physician. And now in the real world, on the ground, doctors are actually leaving these situations because the hospitals are getting rid of them because they're all about the bottom line. That's why you're seeing the mid-level providers become the front line because they're cheaper. So the hospital's going to keep more money in their pot. This is not about healthcare, guys. It's really about money.
20% of the economy.
Yep.
Totally. And growing, so, and you're right. Nobody's getting better. The mortality rate's dropping. So just think about how this is working. You're paying more. You're getting less. You're likely on average to live up in a shorter amount of time. Is this right? Do you really want to double down on this? Be a critical thinker in this. Who cares more about you than you? Nobody. The government doesn't care. Insurance companies, these commercials are hilarious when they get on and tell you how much they love you, these insurance companies. They don't. They love your money. That's about it. So if you decide that I'm going to take care of myself, I want to take control of my health, you need to know that there's an entire system out here, parallel, which you can access. It's cheaper, which is better health care, which you'll get to see a doctor and actually have enough time to go through everything you want to go through with the physician. They know you front and back. They know your family, and it's a fraction of what you're going to pay using your insurance card. Now, I understand that there's catastrophic things that happen, but things like Liberty Health Share will help you get covered because it covers up to, depending on the plan you pick, anywhere from $125,000 a year to up to $1 million a year for healthcare coverage. So it'll cover you if you have to be admitted to a hospital, if you have to have some catastrophic care given. But I also would recommend that you do a supplemental plan like AFLAC.
Yep.
That's really awesome because it's an indemnity plan, which means all you have to do is say, look, I've been diagnosed with X. They don't ask you to pre-cert. They're not a barrier. They just cut you a check the next day for your help. So my practice brought a plan that covers for cancer, for kidney disease, for admission to the hospital, for ambulance services, for eye, for dental. And if we get a catastrophic diagnosis, we're going to get a $250,000 check written back to us, period. End of story. No questions asked. And it's like $50 a month. Why wouldn't you add that to your plan instead of depending on the largesse of the insurance company to, maybe pay for your stuff, not fighting with you? This is how you work the system. Don't play the game because I don't believe it's winnable at this point. The way that we're going to change the system is for people to choose this alternate pathway, the parallel system. This other system that we're in now only understands money. So if you stop paying into it, it starts to pay attention. So they try to coerce us with the Affordable Care Act, with the mandate. Thank goodness the Trump administration has gotten rid of the mandate. So now you won't be dinged, you won't be fined. You can opt away from that system and find something else that works for you and your family.
Dr. ELAINA George is our guest, ladies and gentlemen, a brilliant ear, nose, and throat doctor, but also a dear friend and somebody that's an authority on what's going on in healthcare. Dr. George, we've only got about 2.5 minutes. I've got two quick questions for you. You brought up this point last time that we had you on the show in which you were discussing finding a doctor that you could basically pay X number of dollars a month and spread that out over a year, and it's basically like keeping a doctor on retainer for yourself. And I believe when we had you on last time, you told people how they could, a website they could go to find doctors that would participate in that. The second thing that I wanted to ask you, and then I'll be quiet and let you answer because we are short on time. For employers, for small businesses that have, say, 5, 10, 20, 40 employees that are interested in Liberty Health Share as an alternative to what they're currently paying, say, with Blue Cross or Aetna or any of these other insurance companies, what should they do?
Well, they can go to libertyoncall.org. That's a website that will give you the contact information. You can call them and tell them your story and create a plan for your employees. I actually have done it for my office. So they're able to go to their doctors finally. They don't have this huge deductible anymore, and they're really happy. And then we supplement it, as I said, with Aflac. Another way to do this is to join with a direct primary care practice and have them be your doctor, your private doctor for your employees. And again, you're going to pay a fraction of what you're paying by joining a commercial insurance plan, because the small businesses actually pay more, if you think about it, than the big businesses. So they're gouging us. You can use Liberty Health Share as your method to pay the direct primary care practice. There's a lot of ways to do this that are cost effective. Your employees will be happy. They'll actually be covered, and they have to leave the office. They have telemedicine in some of these, actually most of these direct primary care practices, so they don't have to leave the office and spend time out of the office. They can get care. The doctor knows them. You don't have to wait months to get treated. It's really just a much better system.
All right,
and here in Georgia, there's an example called Hip Nation. People need to check that out.
Hip Nation? Okay.
HIPnation.com.
Okay, and libertyoncall.org is for Liberty Health Share. Dr. ELAINA
Correct.
George, again, her book, Big Medicine, The Cost of Corporate Control and How Doctors and Patients Working Together Can Rebuild a Better System. Can they still get that book? I know it's been out for a year or so.
Yeah, you can go to my website, drelainageorge.com. It's a one-stop shop now. So the book is there. My podcasts are all there as well as my blogs, and all the information I just spoke about in links.
Excellent. And her show, again, Medicine on Call. You can find it also on iTunes, but go to Dr. ELAINA George. That's ELAINA George.com. Dr. ELAINA George, thank you so much again for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Thank you.
And we leave, given Antifa, I like to end on a quote. And this one comes from the philosopher Seneca. Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. Give that a little thought process for a second. Thank you guys for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio. Find us at cowboylogic.us. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And in the meantime, God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.